Hi, I'm Aviva Stanislavski from the Heart of Music, and today I'd like to share with you something that really fascinates me every time I see it and every time I think about it. I have a passion for teaching music to people and for showing them ways of understanding and appreciating classical music. It helps us to understand what are the connections between music and other aspects of life. Have you ever thought about how music is connected to history or to society, to philosophy, to religion, to other arts? Today, I'd like to show you how music is connected to art. And I'd like to ask you to think about how this picture, which I'm about to show you, and the music, which I'm about to play, are connected. When you listen to the music, don't listen with the mind that you're watching a film and this is the soundtrack of the film, because that is not the intention. What I'm asking you to do is to listen to the music and to think about what are the elements in the music that are parallel to the elements in the picture. What kind of features do they have in common? So here we go. Let's listen to the music. Now, when we look at this picture, what we see is a lot of action, really a lot of action. There's so much going on. And what increases the tension is that the lines in the action that we see, they are diagonal. You see here and the swords, and these diagonal lines create a tremendous amount of tension. And there's so much going on in the picture. Now, in contrast, background is very static. We see a building which does not have diagonals. It actually has horizontals and verticals. But the action against that static background is all the more enhanced. Now, what happens in the music? In the music, we see a phenomenon which is known as polyphony because there's a lot going on in the music. It is actually music with several voices sounded at the same time with different melodies, just like the different activities going on in the picture. The picture is full of action, and the music, not only does it have polyphony, but it goes straight through. It doesn't stop to breathe, just like all this action in the picture goes straight through. It doesn't stop. And when the music is straight through like that, we call it through composed. We don't feel phrases that are clear. We feel a pushing forward, which creates a lot of tension and a lot of excitement, just like we see in the picture. Now, why is motion, movement, so important in the picture and in the music? Because it reflects the spirit of the times. We're talking about the Baroque period. The Baroque period spanned from 1600 to 1750 approximately, and during that period there was a lot of activity in so many areas of life. For example, during the Renaissance, the areas that had been discovered by the great explorers were now being settled during this period. That's activity. In the religious sphere, the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation, which emerged during the Renaissance, now became active as wars between the religions. Things became activated, motion, and the most important thing was during this period, astronomers discovered bodies in motion. They discovered in the heavenly spheres the planets, and they discovered that our own planet is in motion. So motion and movement really characterized this period, and they're reflected in the painting and in the music. Painting is by Nicolas Poussin, and it is called The Abduction of the Sabine Women, and the music was by George Frederick Handel from his oratorio Judas Maccabeus. Now let's go on to another style period and see how this works. Here we see a painting from the classical period in music, which in art is also called neoclassical. And in this painting, Unlike the previous one, we can see that the lines are not diagonal, but rather quite horizontal and vertical. Even the heads are all in a horizontal line. And of course, there are vertical lines as well in the background, but also in the foreground. Everything is very, very well organized. And not only that, but the central figure is the figure that everybody has their eyes focused upon. Now, how does this work in music? Let's listen to a piece of music from the same period. What we see here is music that has a central melody. Unlike the polyphonic music that we heard in the Baroque, here the music is what we call homophony, which is a central melody which is supported by the other voices, but the melody is the main focus. Just like the figure in the middle here was the main focus, we focus our ears on the melody without the distractions of polyphony. Now, in addition to that, whereas we saw through composed music in the Baroque, now we see very, very clear phrasing. We know when the phrase ends. And the clarity of the music is parallel to the clarity of the painting. And of course, very characteristic of the classical period in which perfection of form and clarity were the most important principles. So here we've just seen the painting is by John Trumbull, and of course it's of George Washington, and the music was by Mozart, both from the same period, which have the same characteristics. Now let's skip to a different style period. Let's go ahead over 100 years to the end of the 19th century, the period in art which we call Impressionism. Here's an example of an impressionistic painting and a piece of impressionistic music. The painting is called Impression Sunrise by Claude Monet. Now, in this painting, things are very, very vague. We don't see anything clear. As a matter of fact, what we mostly see are clouds and smoke and fog. And if we look closely, the people in the painting, you can barely see them. It's not a painting that's focused on people. The people are silhouettes. And what we see here, it's very, very vague. We see factories and smoke. Now, this was the Industrial Revolution that happened at the end of the 19th century, where factories became the new temples. People were immured with the idea that there was progress, that there was smoke coming out of the factories. Things were being produced. So the Impressionist painters loved clouds and smoke and fog. This piece you were listening to in the background was by Debussy, and it was called Nuages, which means clouds. And basically, the music is very, very vague. It's like the clouds floating around in the sky without a very clear direction. And that's why the music and the art are connected here, because the vagueness is what characterizes both of them. Now let's move on to another piece in the modern era, another piece of art, which is actually what we call Cubism. Cubism basically tries to take reality and reduce it to basic shapes. And this painting is actually in the form of a collage. It's not a collage, but it looks like a collage because it looks like different things are being pasted on, one on top of the other. A lot of things are going on here, but parts of things pasted together. Now, how does the music sound? It's almost like a musical collage. What do we have here? We have little motifs of music, repeated, 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 and pasted on with other motifs. It's almost like the music is pasted together like a collage. Now, this picture is called the city, and it's very interesting. What do we see in the city here? Again, we don't see a lot of people. And when we do see people, have a look, we see half of a figure, another half a figure here. Here we see some figures that look like robots almost. That's the city. What are we focused on? Roads, pipes, columns, buildings, bridges. That's what characterizes the city, and we barely see any people. And all these elements of the city are put together in what looks like a collage. And the music also sounds like a collage of different motifs pasted together. The painting is by Fernand Léger, and the music was by Igor Stravinsky from his ballet Petrushka. So here I've given you an example of how music and art are related in each period. It's a fascinating connection which appears in every single period of music. So I'd like to take you on a journey through the time tunnel of music, which is multidimensional, where we see in the art and the architecture and the music of the period how they're all interconnected. Join me for this adventure. It's going to be an overview of musical history, an overview which will include a survey of the different style periods, an understanding of music in its historical context, and, of course, observing the parallel features in the music, art, and architecture of each period. This series consists of 8 lectures given in an interactive way with multimedia and PowerPoint presentations which help us to see visually what we hear in the music and which help to elucidate the principles in art, architecture, and music. I'm sure you'll find this to be a very exciting and fascinating series, and I hope you'll join us. And don't worry if you have to miss a lesson, because all the lessons are recorded and every participant receives the entire set of recordings of the series. If you're interested in joining us for this series, fill out the form below, and I will send you more details and a special discount offer when the registration opens. I hope to see you there, and I'm sure that you'll be fascinated by the wonderful connections as we take a multi-dimensional journey through the time tunnel of music.